How's it going, everybody? This is Dave Meltzer. We're going to be here for the next 2 hours talking pro wrestling. We've got Brian Alvarez here, and we'll be catching up on a lot of weekend news. We haven't been here since Thursday live. Brian, how are you today?
I'm doing good.
That's good. Anything special over the weekend? How's your weekend?
Well, Friday we didn't have the show, so it was kind of boring, but got a lot of work done. Saturday, wrestled down in Oregon. That was pretty fun. Tony Bourne had his annual show at the Elks Club, so we went down for that.
Tony Bourne. Wow. I haven't heard that name in years.
He's still around. He does a show every year. So did that and then did another show right afterwards. So that was fun. And then Sunday, Easter, saw lots of family members and ate a lot of food. There's family members all over the area. We're like the clones, so I got to see everybody.
I went to an independent show Saturday in Vallejo, California, with All Pro Wrestling, and that was interesting. I don't know. I think no, it was just an independent show. I mean, it wasn't particularly good or particularly bad. I think that watching it, the one thing that really sprung into my head was, and judging from the crowd reaction, it's very tough. It's very difficult to get a crowd into a match, but as far as like getting a crowd into a match, it almost seems really imperative that your basics are decent enough. In fact, the one thing that I think, like, I was watching this, and one of the things was the building was really cold. So when you've got a building really cold, people don't make as much noise. It's just the reality. So there's very little heat. Almost to the point where, they did the UPW, APW invasion deal.
As an actual heat in the building, like Fahrenheit?
It was very cold. Yeah, I mean, it was, I was wearing a sweatshirt and everything, and I was, like, kind of cold. I don't know what it was in the building, but it's probably like 60 degrees, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So, and people are just kind of cold and I don't know. But like the UPW guys were doing this interview, and it was kind of like they were invading, and they really weren't getting any heel heat. And finally, Rick Bassman says something to the effect of, you won't even support your own promotion. You can't stop. And then they still didn't react. And the only real reaction early in the card was when one of the baby faces turned heel. So, of course, everybody cheered him. And he was talking about how bad the promotion was, and they cheered him more. And about the only thing was Robert Thompson. And about the only thing that sort of got them stopping to cheer him was when he just goes, he was talking about Michael Modest, and he just goes, all you people, when it comes to Michael Modest, you have all these excuses on why he didn't make it, and the real reason that he's never made it is because he isn't good enough. And then it was kind of like, ooh. And then they started cheering him again about a minute later, because when he went on his rant about everything else. And but his match actually got heat because there was the only match where, like the blows were stiff and things like that. And a lot of the undercard guys were doing a lot of nice moves, but they're, like they would throw these weak chops that made no noise. And you could just see that, like, the crowd was, they did a nice move. The crowd was appreciative of the move, but they were reacting to moves and not into the match at all. And the APW-UPW match when one of the APW guys turned on Donovan Morgan, and I mean, they just killed him. I mean, it was mega. It should have been mega heat, and the people didn't react at all. But anyway, I don't know how much I want to get into on that show. But the one thing that I thought from watching the show when it was over was that there's a lot of moves in wrestling that have been invented that are really cool, and now everyone is doing them. And by everyone doing them, they're like not really
special
so cool
anymore.
Well, there was like a girl, cheerleader girl, who did a cheerleader gimmick, and she's not a wrestler. She's although obviously she's trained a little bit, but she's a valet. There's the valet of the Ballard brothers, who, by the way, have improved a lot. Ballard brothers and Prototype, I noticed a big improvement, and then Frankie Kazarian too. Watching the show, from the last time I'd seen those guys, which is only a couple months ago, but the Ballard brothers cheerleader, I think her name was Cheerleader Melissa, or whatever her name was. She did a plancha, and she did a Hurricane Run off the top rope, and it was almost as if the crowd reaction to it was, God, if she could do it, we probably could do it too. And to me, it was like, okay, so when then the guys do it, it's like, well, we've already seen a girl do it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Anyway, that's just sort of a thing on, when I saw that, it was like, almost like it was I hate to use the word exposing the business, because this is such a horrible word to use because it's so stupid and it sounds so old-fashioned. But I think that, like, exposing the move.
Or protecting the move.
Well, don't expose the move to show that, like, you know, you can have a manager or a valet do this cool move, because if they can, then what's so special about, like, a cruiserweight guy doing it?
Mm-hmm.
So, anyway, that was my little speech from that show. Let me see what else we have here. Not a whole lot of wrestling news. Stu Hart's out of the hospital. His situation, from what I gather, was not nearly as serious as it was made out to be. He did not have pneumonia. He did have fluid in the lungs and near the heart. I believe he's out today of the hospital. He was in the hospital since Thursday. What else was going on? Just XFL. I don't know. I mean, the ratings were slightly up. They did on the overnight, they did a 2.0 on Saturday night and a 1.2 on Sunday for the playoff semifinals, which they're up slightly from last week. I think they're both up like 0.2. But for the playoffs, I think that they were certainly hoping for a lot more. And then also the crowds.
The funny thing is the rating got so low that even going up like 0.2, you know they're going to do the press release going XFL ratings are up 20%.
I don't think they can, because the number is so embarrassing for a playoff game that I don't think they can brag about that increase. If it was like last week of the season and they did this, they would have. In fact, they did that one week when they did. You know, when they go up like 0.1 of a point. You know, they bragged like they're up 13% or something like that. But the final last Sunday's UPN number was 0.34. That's what they ended up at. But as I sent you that article where they were talking about, you know, if we weren't on NBC, nobody would be talking about how bad our ratings are, because our ratings on the other stations, are still good. And I'm just thinking, like,
they're great. A 0.34.
What ratings is he talking about?
The funniest one was the whole UPN article talking about. I think we talked about this on Thursday. How, you know, it's doing better than the same time slot last season or whatever, when there was no programming in that time.
They didn't have any programming. It's not doing better or worse.
It was up infinite percent.
Yeah. Anyway, so they did not draw well in Los Angeles or Orlando for the semifinals, which is also kind of sad. And then the worst part is that the championship game is going to be in Los Angeles. It's Los Angeles, San Francisco, and they only did about 8,000 people legitimate at the Coliseum. They claimed a lot more than that, a little bit more than that. But to go back, I mean, if they're going to have that championship game and have 10, 11,000 people at that Coliseum. Oh well. I guess I don't know what else to say about it. Let's see. New Japan is in the news. In this country, saying that they're preparing an IPO. There's actually, as far as I can tell, there's no news in their country about it. So I'm trying to find out what they're saying in Japan about it. Let's see. We got a Raw lineup. Let me see.
Actually, looks like a hell of a show.
Yeah. Jeff Hardy against Triple H for the Intercontinental. They may do Steve Austin against Matt Hardy as well. I'm not sure about that one. Edge and Christian against Hardcore Hollies for the tag team title, which was the match they were supposed to have on SmackDown. Kurt Angle, Chris Jericho, which probably be a hell of a match. Regal against Benoit. I just hope that those two matches that we just mentioned get 5-6 minutes rather than like a 2 minute because they're going to end with the run-ins. Yeah, they're going to end with a run, so just give them a little bit of time before the run-in. Bubba Ray Dudley against Justin Credible.
If they're leading to that tag match with Angle and Regal versus Benoit and Jericho, there's got to be a run-in in one of those matches.
Oh, there's going to be a run-in.
I don't encourage it, but I just know there's going to be.
No, I mean, there will be in both of them. I'm just saying that I hope they get some time before they get there. So, on paper it looks like a good show. A lot of the WCW stuff is going to be taken care of this week. Jim Ross is going to Atlanta, I think Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, to meet with wrestlers, potential front office people. There's a lot to talk about that. They're going to be running the TV tapings on Saturday night as a regular thing, because the feeling is that they will have a very difficult time drawing on Wednesday and an easier time on Saturday, and they don't want empty buildings. So it makes sense. And I think it's the right move on that account as well. The feeling within the company is that the guys like even Booker T probably will not be ready by June the 9th because they won't have the contracts worked out. I mean, they hope that they will, but they are thinking they probably won't. That first show, there's a game going on right now between Time Warner and WWF. And what it is Time Warner, I don't know if you've heard about this, but they have offered, in the last couple of days, they have started offering people buyouts at 50 cents on the dollar, which most of the guys are very cold towards taking. And I think that what their deal is that they want WWF to pick up the contracts, feeling that at least some of the big contracts WWF will be forced to pick up because by June the 9th, if they don't have any stars on that show, they're going to go in there in that weak time slot, do a bad first rating, or do a bad first show without star power. Because people will tune in expecting Bill Goldberg and Ric Flair, and then not, if the biggest stars are Lance Storm and Mike Awesome, could be, it's not the way to start, put it that way. So that's the WCW side. The WWF side is that they are not going to they're not going to buy any more contracts, and they can start without Booker T and DDP and Ric Flair, and they don't need any of them. They're going to make it go somehow.
50 cents on the dollar is better than, I would have thought they would have offered like 33 if they were going to play that game or something. There was so much talk about like 30 cents on the dollar or whatever. And...
It was only 30 cents on the dollar for Goldberg. That was the only one because of that, of how much money it was. The other guys, the talk was some 40%, some 40 cents and some 70 cents. So, and I don't know who's what. I only know that two guys have gotten offered 50.
God, for 70 cents, why not take it?
Well, for 70 cents, you would take it. If you were going to get, a pay, you get 70 cents on the dollar and then a paycheck from WWF as well. You would. But the 70 cents guys would be the real low-end guys.
Yeah.
So anyway, everything's kind of in a holding pattern, but I expect that, some decisions.
I'm sure they'll have a big star on that show. I mean, even if something happens and on, June 8th, nothing is worked out, they'll put somebody from the WWF that's a fairly big name over there. They're not going to go into that first show with nobody. Billy Gunn.
Well, Billy Gunn will probably
end up there. There's just no way. Especially the first one. Well,
it's going to be interesting. I think they better have a good first show, though. I mean, we've already seen with the XFL, especially with that time slot. When I was at that independent show on Saturday, I talked to a bunch of people, none of whom knew what was going on as far as this thing goes. And then when I told them that time slot, you should have seen the facial reactions. It was like it's doomed. And that surprised me because I just figured, these are hardcore wrestling fans. They're gonna find it and watch it. And it was like when they heard Saturday Night at 11, it was like, oh my God. Let's see. Poll question. Where do we have it? Do you think there will be a second season of the XFL? A, yes. B, no. We've actually been getting, what's the word I'm looking for? Tampered with poll results. Actually, we're having I'd say probably in the last week, because we usually get a certain number of results, and we've been getting like 500 more than usual on some days, and they're all voting the exact same way, so I kind of just say, if one person wants to vote 500 times, it doesn't really mean anything in the final end of a result. So anyway, that's what happened.
Why would you waste precious moments of your life skewing with the Wrestling Observer Live IATA poll?
I don't know. How long does it take to vote 500 times?
I don't know.
So anyway.
I never tried to vote. I'd think a while.
Okay. Well, it was Easter.
I guess that's true.
Okay. Any more news to talk about before we see?
Can we talk about the Noah Championship?
Yeah, we can talk about that. Mitsuharu Misawa won yesterday over Yoshihiro Takayama. They did draw a sellout at the Ariake Coliseum. Misawa got his jaw realigned or knocked out of alignment by a real stiff high kick. Then Saturday they had the Budokan, and they almost sold out. What's funny was about the Budokan is that a couple of months ago, if you'd said the first match ever with Toshiaki Kawada and Keiji Muto, my feeling was that if it drew any less than about 45,000 people, you'd be disappointed. And here they don't even sell Budokan, and things have gotten so bad that I'm considering that a success. That they did, almost 14,000 people or whatever the real number was. They claimed 15.8, but it was a little bit less than that. But it was a pretty packed building, and Muto won. And I guess the deal is that Kawada is going to get his forearm rested for a couple of months and then come back. So that's why he lost three big matches in a row. And I think that on June the 8th they're going to do the tag champions from each side against each other. Taoki and Johnny Smith of All Japan against Satoshi Kojima and Hiroyoshi Tenzan at Budokan. And actually
What about Muto and Tenryu?
And Muto and Tenryu will probably be the main event for the Triple Crown, which Muto and Tenryu, you get two crippled up guys. So that one may be tough, but they've had great matches in the past. But that tag team match is going to be fantastic. Because those guys, Kojima and Tenzan are a great team, and Taoki is really, really good. And Johnny Smith's one of those, good workers that's really underrated, doesn't get the, what I mean? In a situation like that, in a big match, I think they're, plus interpromotional on All Japan turf. I think that match I think will be very, very good.
Cool.
Okay.
Saturday night I decided, I'm going to find out the, results of the Kawada Muto match, And so I found this thing on the internet that translates web pages that are in another language.
Really?
And so, really, yeah. And I went up to the page and everything, and it translated it out. And the good news was there was some English on the page, but the bad news was I still couldn't read one damn thing on the whole page.
Didn't translate well enough, huh?
Did not translate very well at all. But it was a good idea.
Okay, let's see what we got here. We'll start with some emails. Let's see. Since becoming a fan of pro wrestling in Japan, I've always wondered why American companies don't try to work to the All and New Japan prototypes. The fact is, when there's compelling ring action, people like watching it. The catch is the ring work has to really be smoking. Without that, you have nothing. There's nothing wrong with good ring work, but you need more than that. Here's another thing. When I was at that show, I'm talking to different guys and thinking about this, and I was watching this three-way, okay? And, you work independent shows. Every single independent show I get a result of has three-ways and four-ways, okay? Now, the match was not particularly good because three-ways and four-ways, 80% of the time make for bad matches unless you've got, great workers in there. And because it's more difficult to work the match. Now, Paul Heyman popularized these things, but I don't think that they draw any extra money. When you have green guys doing it, they usually make for terrible matches. How come, I started to have this thing, where everywhere in wrestling, it's like monkey see, monkey do. And if you do something, a big promotion does something really good. I mean, wrestling's all about copying, right? But one thing that I've always thought, and I never could understand, and this has to do with the Japanese and as well as the independents here, is that if there's something that, say, WCW does, really stupid, like that one-finger title push, right? Yeah. Someone on the independent, as stupid as that is, it was going to do it. Or, not to say three-ways when ECW popularized them were a dumb idea. They were sort of an ECW innovation, the three-way tag team dance, so to speak. And then, I guess they kind of got put on the map with that three-way with Sabu and Shane Douglas and Terry Funk years and years ago. But it's if you don't have guys who know how to do it, why don't they just do singles matches? Why do they always have to, the idea that you got to do a three-way or a four-way tag match, and then you've got these guys trying not to step on each other's toes because it's so much more difficult to navigate around the ring in. I don't know, Brian, what's...
I think part of it is, on a lot of independent shows, sometimes you'll get an extra guy there or whatever, a couple of extra guys, and they don't really think the whole thing through, and it's not like they're writing WWF TV. It's just well, we'll put you in this match, you guys can do a three-way. It's not even something they really think about. And I think that, a lot of the things that you see on TV, a lot of wrestlers and promoters, even though they're actually in the wrestling business, don't really follow it enough to know that one-finger punch helped kill World Championship Wrestling. It was just Kevin Nash and Hulk Hogan did this deal. They're two huge stars. They did it on Nitro. The fans threw garbage in the ring, so, it must have been over. Let's do something like that. So I don't think that, it's just you watch we're just talking about the tournament with the DQs and the countouts, and it's why would Misawa book a match with a countout and a DQ in a tournament when those things don't get over in the U.S.? But the fact is, they don't get over, but they're still being done in the WWF, which is the place to be. So I just think that's why they do. I mean, it's not they're writing, they're going let's get a three-way here, let's get a tag match, let's get a hardcore match. I don't think promoters really think like that. I think it's just they see the guys they have, and
I think they do on independent shows. You always have to have a hard. It just seems like you have to have hardcore. That's another one too. The hardcore. I think that. I don't know. I mean, hardcore is something that I think that it's as a change of pace. If you have 9 matches on a show, having one match.
And one's hardcore.
Having different matches, that's okay. But I don't know. I was just the three-way thing because I see so few good ones, especially at the independent level. I'm just thinking why do you even do them? And instead of say in a tag situation doing a three-way, why don't you just put two guys in a singles match and have the other two guys do a tag team match and then make for probably less bad matches, so to speak.
Yeah.
A less bad match.
Those matches are so hard to do, those three-ways.
I know. Well, they're hard to do for, stars. Because, most of the time with stars, when they do the three-ways, they're usually not that good unless you got, Hunter and Rock and Kurt Angle out there doing it because they do it. They work so often and they're awesome workers. But for, the mid-card guys doing, I don't know.
That's why I was so impressed with that four-way at the No Way Out show. That was like a miracle to me.
Yeah.
Another thing I was just thinking about, too, if you look at, posters from the old days, a poster could be made with, like, a main event at the top, and then underneath there'd just be a listing of, blank versus blank. And because it was like territories, it was a bunch of names that people would recognize. Whereas nowadays, with any wrestling, shows are run maybe once a month, maybe once every 3 months, different venues. It's not like a weekly deal. So if you make a poster with just blank versus blank, nobody knows who any of those people are. And so I think the idea is, well, we'll put triple threat match here in big letters, and we'll put hardcore match here in big letters, and we'll put midget match or whatever, because those are things that people can at least relate to because they've seen it on TV. Whereas if they just saw a poster filled with random names, they just go, yeah, okay, great. AAA, minor league wrestling or whatever. Why go?
Interesting. Yeah, that actually makes some sense. But then you got to watch them anyway.
Well, that's true.
And the guys have to do them. I mean, it's like, if they're ready to do them and can pull it off, it's one thing. But when you watch, it's harder. And some guy, it makes for I don't know. Anyway, this is from Bruce. It goes, back in the late 60s and early 70s, there's a wrestler called Batman. I heard he was a friend of Bruno Sammartino's who was going nowhere and asked Bruno if he could help get him over with a gimmick. Bruno was not into those gimmicks but went along with it to help out his friend. I was wondering if this is a true story. We're actually going to have Bruno here Wednesday, and I think the story's true, and it's Tony Marino was the guy, but we can talk to Bruno about Batman in Pittsburgh. Bruno was the booker, in fact, when they did that. New possible taglines for the new WCW. WCW, the new home of Billy Gunn. It's Daisy-astic. Season premiere June the 9th. It's either this or the XFL, and damn it, you've got to watch one of them. New owners, new time slot, new network, same old wrestling. And WCW Saturday Nitro Live starring Shane McMahon and featuring the not ready for Monday Night players. I don't think that's...
I watched Heat last night and Billy Gunn worked a match, and he seriously is Sean Stasiak, like 10 years older.
Well, they could do the feud.
Looks just like him, works just like him. Oh.
He's a little more over, though. Like, a lot more over.
That's true.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I got this. Will most of the light heavyweights that WWF signs from now on be sent to WCW? When it comes to this, a lot of this talent stuff, believe me when I tell you this. Believe me, because I know most of the people who are involved. This is most of these decisions have not fully even been made. I think it would be, it's an interesting idea for WCW to be like the light heavyweight promotion, so to speak, because they could have quicker ring action and things like that. I just don't know in that time slot. That time slot is very tough. I'll tell you what, booking that time slot, I was talking with somebody about laying out that time slot. And it's like, the traditional thing would be, you build for an hour and a half or hour and 45 to a main event match. But in this case, the main event's going to be 12:45, and by then you're going to lose some of your audience, and we don't know how much, because until you look at the quarter hours, you really don't know.
It's like those old Saturday night main events.
Well, Saturday night main events, I was actually earlier today.
They do the main event first.
Earlier today, I was looking up those old Saturday night main events, and generally speaking, they put the main event either first or second. And then they usually ended with kind of like a nothing match, because the feeling is that, by 12:45 a.m., people are going to sleep, or a lot of people.
Yeah, but if you really look at when Raw is preempted, and it's moved to like 11 o'clock on Monday, I don't really think there was a huge drop throughout. I actually should look back at this, but I don't think there was like a huge drop to the main event.
There was a drop, but there was not a huge drop, you're right. But the thing is, that's Monday night where people are tuned in, and it was when WWF did good numbers on Monday night from 11 to 1, that was a very hot product. You can, believe me, if your product's super hot, you'll draw 11 to 1. It's not a death time slot for a hot product. It's a death time slot for a cold product.
I mean, why would you stay up till 11 o'clock to watch wrestling and not have enough to stay up till 1? I mean, if little children are staying up till 1 o'clock on a Monday night when Raw is preempted, I'm sure they can do it Saturday night.
That'd be really interesting to look up the demographics for those weeks to see how many little children were still up at
I think you did that once, and I think there were a lot of little kids still up at 1 o'clock.
Yeah, there were. Like hundreds of thousands, actually.
Yes.
Let's see. Antoine, where in the world is D'Lo Brown? It looks like he's going to be shipped to WCW. That's another decision that has not been made, although it could very well happen. Is Jerry Lynn still young enough to have a productive WWF career? I hear he's 38 years old. I think he's right about 38. That sounds like his age to me. I mean, if they want to give him a productive career, he can, because he's a good enough wrestler. But it'll be tough, and my gut feeling is that he's not going to get that break.
What do you mean by like a productive career?
That's a good question.
I mean, look at Dallas Page. I mean, they're talking about bringing him in because he's a hard worker, and he's a lot older than Jerry Lynn. And everyone's talking about Jerry Lynn's having these great matches, on the road and in the dark matches. If he goes out there, it doesn't matter if he's 38. They're not going to have a shirt on him that says I'm 38. If he looks good and he has good matches, I think he can go well.
Yeah, I think he's got the size thing working against him and the lack of interviewability working against him.
Yeah.
But that doesn't matter his age. You know what? When it comes to his age is probably not even a factor. It's those other things that are the factor.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly how much does Tony Mamaluke really weigh? Most sites, including ECW, give bogus weights. I saw one match where he slid between the two bars and the guardrail. I don't know. What do you think?
He did do that.
What do you think, 140?
I was reading somewhere he was listed at like 150. And if weights in wrestling are usually, I'd say probably about 130.
130? Wow. Yeah, I was thinking maybe 140. But you might be right. He's not that tall.
He can't be much taller than me. And when I was 140, I was not as skinny as Tony Mamaluke.
Okay. So, Guido... What do you think of Guido really is?
Guido, I bet, is probably about...
160 tops.
160.
And he's a lot lighter than Guido. He could be 135, 135 maybe.
Yeah.
He's very thin. Let's see.
I don't think I would have ever made it through a guardrail.
The WWF's purchase of WCW was the second most important wrestling story of the last 30 years. The first was the demise of the JWA and the rise of All Japan and New Japan from 1971 to early 1973. I know Inoki was fired in December 71. Why did Baba leave? Because the company was about to go under, and both Baba and Inoki wanted more power from the old company. And then Inoki left, and Baba basically, wanted to go out on his own because Baba was really, in that era, actually a bigger star than Inoki. And, he was the number one guy, and it was kind of one of those things, he wanted to go at it, and he wanted to be a promoter, so he started up his own company. And once he left, and this was after Inoki left, and the company was starting to fall in financial problems because a lot of the owners had really bad gambling problems. It wasn't that the business was necessarily so bad. I think maybe that's another reason why Baba wanted to leave, was, maybe he didn't want to be owned by those guys and figured he could do it himself, and obviously he made millions doing it. So anyway, that was the story back then. Just want you to know that the Backseat Boys, Trent Acid and Johnny Kashmere, were on Heat last night as the Backseat Dudleys, and Albert put them through a table on the WWF New York stage. Do you think they'll be kept around for a while?
No.
Probably not, no. Who would you think is the best wrestler in New Japan right now? I don't know, Yuji Nagata or Koji Kanemoto when he's healthy, Minoru Tanaka as junior heavyweight and heavyweight Yuji Nagata. Will Raw move to a pre-taped format now that the Monday Night Wars are over? No, they will not. What was the final tally for Monday Night Wars? Like who won most weeks? I don't know. What's the deal with Kanyon? I heard his contract was up this month.
WWF won, but I don't know the numbers, so.
As far as Kanyon goes, WWF would like to have him, same deal as everybody else that we talk about. I mean, there's no, everyone's deal is pretty much the same except for the ones that they really don't want. Is there anyone in CCW or XPW you think is talented enough to compete in the WWF right now? I have not seen enough of those different guys. Trent Acid, I think is the one that I saw who I thought was pretty damn talented. And there may be others.
There's got to be something on the XPW website, or there's got to be something passed out at XPW shows that asks people to send you questions about XPW. Because for the amount of people that they draw, we get a lot of emails. More than you would expect. Just noticed that last couple of weeks.
Only because just someone wants to talk about something besides WWF. And they want to talk about wrestlers coming to WWF, and those are the independents that get the most play, CCW and XPW. They're just the ones that have the most attention right now. I don't know, only thing I can think of. Is it legal for Eric Bischoff to tell guys not under contract to sit home until he and Hogan form their company, or is it considered contract tampering? Well, if they don't have a contract, how could it be tampering? So the answer to that is no. It is. No, I mean, the answer is that is yes, it is legal. Totally legal. I know this topic has been beaten to death, but in regards to Jerry Lawler firing, believe it or not, Jerry Lawler was not fired. Jerry Lawler quit. He quit on his own because he thought that he would be able to get a job in WCW and get his wife a job in WCW, and if all things had gone the way everyone expected, he would have. But it didn't happen. And so it turned out, in hindsight, that walking out may not have been the right decision. But as far as he wasn't fired, and it was not, I do not believe that it was a plot to get rid of him. I mean, a lot of people attribute Not that Vince McMahon hasn't done plots before, but I think that it was just as simple as they wanted Stacey Carter out for whatever reason. And
I think there may have been a plot to get Stacey out, but nothing with Lawler.
Well, I'm sure that there was something there. I don't know so much a plot as much as, people complained about her in mass. Many complaints in one day. If you really look back at the timing of all this, Vince had just come back from a weekend of the XFL, okay, and he had the pay-per-view. And, hey, the guy, you saw him on Costas. The XFL is tough. It's a tough deal. When you go in there and you're told for 2 straight years by everyone in the world and you're just making nothing but money, and then you do this IPO and you make, $186 million in cash. You're just swimming in money. You can do no wrong. Your enemies are just like, looking real bad at every turn because you're making so much money, right? Your ratings are down a little bit, but so what? They're still the highest rated show on cable. And then you go in there and you think that, you are the promotional genius and you can beat the NFL because the NFL's got this tired old product and they're ready for the taking. And then you go in there and you're in a game that you don't know and the end result is this. And it's kind of like that rude awakening and he probably was not in a pretty good mood. And then people come up one after the other and go, yeah, that woman is this and that and look at what she did on that pay-per-view, and all this. And he's probably just like, what do I, screw this. She's got no talent anyway. Let's get rid. Really, I'm sure that's what he was thinking. We have 1 million women. She's not the most over. She's got no special talent other than she happens to be. The only reason she's here in the first place is because she's Jerry Lawler's wife. And that is the only reason she was there. So it's just well, we don't need this. We fired Sable. She was a superstar. Or actually, she quit. I shouldn't say they fired her, but the same thing. We lost Sable. We lost Steve Austin. God knows we can lose any. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Who cares? And I don't think he thought about, the idea of Lawler leaving. And then when Lawler left, it was just like, screw you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't care. I'll just put somebody else there. And he called up Heyman, put Heyman there, and that's what happened. And, if it had been, if it had been handled differently, Lawler could have been back, but, it doesn't look like it right now.
As far as considering, the NFL a tired old product or whatever, I was writing up that Costas deal over the weekend, and Vince was talking about you cannot build a brand in 1 year. The NFL's been around for 75 years. And right then I thought, why didn't Vince think about that before he even started? There's a reason that thing's been around for 75 years. If it was a tired old product and nobody cared, it wouldn't be around, or it would have changed. Well, been around for 75 years. That's like Vince should have thought, if this thing's around for 75 years and we claim to be around for 50, how would someone start up and compete with me? What would they be able to do? But he didn't think that. He thought, well, I can do it. I can beat these guys.
Yeah. The other thing now, now they're thinking that I don't want to get too much into XFL because obviously not that many people care about it, but, the other day I saw, they had a full page ad in, I think the San Francisco Chronicle for, to watch the games, the 2 playoff games. And they're listing, all the stars on each team. And I'm looking at this and I'm going they're trying to get over these stars for this game, and I'm thinking every single one of these guys is going to be in an NFL camp next year. And they're and some of the people who are bragging about the XFL go, there's going to be a lot of guys in the XFL in camp next year. And before the season ever started, Brian knows nothing about football, self-admitted, okay? But we were talking about, every star is going to end up in the XFL next season, and that's the problem ECW had, and that's not how you build a league by creating a star and then losing it to the rival league.
Yeah. And the whole thing was, Vince is talking about in the interview as well, he goes, the NFL's already talking about stealing some of our production ideas. And I'm just thinking, wait till they steal that first player. Just wait.
Yeah,
but
here's the thing. Steal the production ideas. Brian, didn't we say before the very first game was played that if they have any good ideas, they're going to be in the NFL next season? Any good ideas or great players, they're all going to be in the NFL next year, just like ECW. And can Vince handle being the ECW of football? Well, the ECW didn't make any money either, obviously, as we've seen by the bankruptcy papers.
Look where they are today.
Look where and it's unfortunately, that's, whatever. This is from Harry Simon, who goes, the deal with John Tenta, this is John Tenta thing, was that Big Bubba and the Dungeon of Doom shaved half of John Tenta's head and angle. I actually read somewhere that the premise was that John Tenta himself reshaved the half of his head every morning to remind him of hatred towards Bubba. I remember that interview because it made no sense. Why did the head of hair always stay like that? And that was the reason that was given when they asked about that. What do you think was the greatest match ever? I will not even attempt to answer that question. There's just too many. Just too many. Let's see. More WCW shows. Watch us now because we'll be dead in a year. WCW Jacked. I think they already have that name. WCW No Star Power. Late Night with Shane McMahon. And the following is a paid commercial for World Championship Wrestling. Let's see. I was watching The First in Your House, and I was wondering who was Jerry Lawler's mom. Probably a model. I don't know. Do you know? Was that anyone special?
Who was Jerry Lawler's? Oh, that's
Don't
right.
remember they had Mother's Day, and they had some girl who was like 25 years old be Jerry Lawler's mom?
Probably just some model.
Yeah, I don't remember. I've just seen an incredible match with Kawada against Steve Williams. Hopefully it was. I don't think it was the match the other day, but in the past, in the 90s, God, they had great matches. What other Kawada match would you recommend? Any Budokan Hall main event. There's hundreds of them. Kawada with Kobashi, Akiyama, Misawa, Taue, Steve Williams, even Stan Hansen if you go back far enough. Pretty much any Kawada main event. Kensuke Sasaki, the guy's just awesome. Is the plan still for Backlash a one-on-one match with Benoit and Angle? As of about a week ago, it was not. It was a tag match, but until it's announced, they constantly change these lineups. And I have not talked to anyone. Regarding like the lineup for Backlash since Tuesday. So tonight they may restructure everything because again, even the main event hasn't been officially announced. So they could still change and put the Hardys in, depending on what they do tonight. Brian, you told me you're almost done with the issue already? That's amazing.
I know, this weekend I just started writing, and I think most of it was that Bob Costas thing, which I think subliminally I kept telling myself unconsciously to not write that article because it was going to be so damn long, and it ended up being like 2 or 3 pages long. And last night at like 1 o'clock I went back and checked, and the entire issue is almost done. And I haven't even put in the TV reports yet. There's like today, tomorrow, all the news, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And no WCW.
Yeah. What was I going to say with the, it took me a good 2-3 pages to go over that thing. Bob Costas thing. Let's see. What are the best matches on the Wrestling Gold DVDs? Any 5-star matches on it? There are no 5-star matches on that tape. The best matches, I think, Randy Savage and Lanny Poffo against Rock and Roll Express matches were pretty good. I think there was a pretty good Tully Blanchard, Manny Fernandez match. No, Nick Bockwinkel, Manny Fernandez. There might have been a good Tully Blanchard, Manny Fernandez as well. It's 80s stuff. It's very different. When I watched it, and I lived through all that and had seen virtually every one of those matches before, and actually, between Cornette and I, we'd actually been live at about half of them. It's a different style. That's all I could say. But, for the style, a lot of them were good, and a lot of it, I'll tell you what the worst match was, I think. Actually, there might have been some like really short matches, like a Sheik match or something that was just dreadfully horrible. But as far as a long match, there was a match with Bob Sweetan and Jerry Lawler that went like 20 minutes, and they like never locked up. It was so ungodly horrible. And Cornette loves Jerry Lawler, but by the end of that match, even he had to admit that this match was like atrocious. And we were just like
on
the
commentary?
whole time. I think that he admitted it on commentary by the end, yeah. Because I think there was a point about 10 minutes.
How could you watch like a horrible match and do commentary and like be praising it or whatever? How could you not go, my God, this is horrible? When are they going to lock up?
I think about 10 minutes in, I think I was going like, well, now we know why Southwest Championship Wrestling died as a territory. Poor Bob Sweetan, when you see him, he was looking bad. Because the other thing about that match was, he really did nothing, because what little was done in that match was done by Lawler. He did everything. And that wasn't much. It wasn't one of Lawler's great performances.
Yeah.
Let's see.
As much as I used to make fun of Tony Schiavone and some of the other commentators for WCW, some days I would sit there like watching Thunder, and I would think to myself, if I were hired to do announcing for this show, I would be fired the next day. I could not do it. I could not sit there and try to pretend like Van Hammer versus Sean Stasiak was a good match. It would just be completely impossible for me.
Let's see. Mike from Pennsylvania asks, what is Kevin Von Erich up to now? I just know he's living in Texas. Have you heard anything about... I hear his name every now and then, but I don't know what he's doing. Ever since World Class closed up shop, I haven't heard anything about him. Is he active in any phase of wrestling? No, he's not in any phase. Would you ever get him on the show? Oh, I would say no. I don't see any point. What happened on Piper's Pit with Rocky Johnson? Piper seemed to be uncharacteristically stiff with his shots. I think that's just, because the cameras were up close. I don't think there was anything like that. Did this turn into a shoot since Piper made a racial comment like you should be shining your shoes? That's just, again, as bad as that looks now, when you look back, that was just what people did in wrestling. And I'm not defending it because I didn't like it when they did it in the 80s, the racial stuff. But they did do it. And, Rocky Johnson lived with that, being a wrestler in many territories. So, I mean, he's not going to lose his temper over that. That was just what was known as building heat in those days, and they just did it. And he's got a list of ECW wrestlers and wants to know what their chances of getting a shot in the WWF. Let's see, Danny Doring, not good right now. Guido, I know Heyman wants to get him into WCW. We'll see. The decision hasn't been made. Tony Mamaluke, same thing. Mikey Whipwreck, just don't see it.
It's going to be a tough one.
That's a tough one. Sinister Minister, don't see. Shetty, he's worked some dark matches. They may give him a developmental. Tom Marquez, I don't think so. Roadkill, he's kind of talented for a big guy. Just doesn't have the look that they like. Red Dog, I don't know enough about. Michael Shane. I was
reading an interview with Roadkill, and he's talking about Al Snow came up with his gimmick. And I thought, that is an Al Snow gimmick if I've ever heard one.
Yeah. Steve Corino, I think, I have not heard anything. He left on bad terms with Paulie, so that may not help. And he was
what happened there?
I think, I don't know all the details other than, it's the whole money thing, you saw, they were saying stuff about each other, especially Paul. Actually, probably both sides. Simon Diamond, probably good shot at developmental deal. Francine, I wouldn't. Dawn Marie, again, good shot at developmental. Chili Willie, I don't see. Sandman, I don't see. Matthews and York already got a developmental. And Dreamer, I expect will be in WWF in some form. Hey, what would you do? What are you going to do if you were writing, booking the Jeff Hardy Hunter match tonight? What do you do? Just a question.
God, that's a tough one. I mean, I don't think that Jeff should lose the belt tonight, and I hate run-ins and lame things like that. But I think what's going to happen is it's probably going to be Jeff versus Hunter, and Austin runs in and they just kill the kid. I mean, if I were doing it, I seriously would put Jeff Hardy over him again.
It's a possibility that they may do that.
If they are serious about building people up, then they really need to build people up. I mean, if you look back, look at Shawn Michaels when he gave the belt to Austin. I mean, it was clean in the middle with the stunner, and it was over. And
okay, but
they really are trying to put people over.
That was good.
They put him over clean.
Brian, I got to tell you something about that.
Yeah, I know. It was his last match and everything like that.
It was his last match, and you know about what Undertaker and everything, don't you? Do you know the story about that?
As far as
that night?
No.
With Undertaker and everything with Shawn Michaels? On that night in Boston? You know the story? Oh, okay. Well, Shawn was complaining. He didn't want to do the job, even though it was going to be his last match. Everyone knew it was his last match. All of a sudden, he was complaining about dropping the title, felt Austin hadn't deserved it, hadn't paid his dues, things like that. And, it was a pretty big issue. So anyway, what happened was the night of the show, as Shawn went through, and he was supposed to lose, okay, Undertaker taped up his fist. He went up to Shawn and starts taping up his fist. And, going like, what's this all about? And it's just like, you're doing the job. That's
okay, maybe that was a bad example. But in general...
the end result was the right thing.
The end result was the right thing. But I'm just saying in general, when they want to put over a star, when they want to make somebody, they make somebody by giving them a clean win over a superstar. I mean, if you look back... I'm trying to think of a good example, because now I'm just totally screwed up because I got the Shawn Michaels deal. But, I mean, if they really want to make Jeff Hardy, if they really want to make him and they think he's going to be the next Shawn Michaels or wherever, they want to give him this big push towards the top, he's got to beat Hunter clean. Otherwise, they're not doing all they can.
There's different ways to do it. I just want to watch how they do it tonight because I don't know. I mean, Hunter could win and it could still elevate Jeff depending on how Hunter does it and the way it's done. And
yeah,
Jeff
but you know what?
Win.
We were thinking that exact same thing with the Last Man Standing match with Chris Jericho.
But that was okay. You know what killed that? That was not that match. Did not hurt Jericho.
It was the follow-up.
It was the follow-up, and it's the same thing with this. If Jeff Hardy loses to Hunter, it could either be bad or not bad, and it's not what happens tonight. It's what they do afterwards. If Jeff Hardy loses, it's a fluke loss, and the next main event on the pay-per-view involves Jeff Hardy, and he gets a win back, and he's from this point forward in that mix of the top guys. Then it was benefit. If he falls back to the exact same spot in 3 weeks that he was in 2 weeks ago, then this whole Intercontinental thing did absolutely nothing for anyone. So it just depends on its future booking as more than what they exactly do for results. Anyway,
I mean, let's look at like Goldberg and Hogan when Goldberg beat him for the title, and then they kind of buried Goldberg, and he was always like maybe second match from the top, and Hogan was pushed as the top guy. And that win over Hogan still helped Goldberg a lot, but I think that if they would have done that exact same follow-up, but Goldberg had not beat him clean, and like 50 men ran in, and Goldberg got a total fluke, I don't think he would have been as big as he managed to still be after they did the follow-up.
Right, but if they had booked Goldberg as the new superstar from that win and made that win and not made Hogan the top star, Goldberg would not have cooled off, even while continuing to win matches, because he was cooling off while continuing to win at that point.
Yeah.
It's you got it. But anyway, let's start with Brandon in West Virginia. Brandon, what's going on?
Hey. Hello?
Hey, how are you?
I'm fine. Just a few quick. I was listening to the show and you were talking about the independents, how they always throw in triple threat and tag teams and stuff like that.
Yes.
I've been noticing a lot up here in college. We get a lot of the Smoky Mountain runoffs, like Tony Nardo and Justin Case wrestling around. I was at an MDW show, and every single time I go to any of those shows up there, there's always a battle royal.
That's from a different era.
Huh?
That's from a different era. That's another thing out here.
Yeah.
They run a lot of battle royals because in the 70s, battle royals were a big draw in Northern California, and the fact is they haven't been in 15 years, but it's like, it's actually another example of the same thing in the battle royals. Battle royals usually stink. I mean, almost always. And I think that's just like one of those things where, because there was a period, at least with the battle royals, there was a period in like the 70s and even up through the early 80s where battle royals were traditionally a huge drawing card. And then people realized how bad they were and stopped being a big drawing card. But with three-ways, three-ways are just some gimmick that started being done on TV, so everyone thought they could copy them. And I just don't know what they add to a show, at least at an independent level.
Well, from the ones I've seen, I'd rather have the 5 worst workers in a battle royal than in single matches all through the card, personally.
I mean, as far as but if they're not, you're just telling me that guys aren't ready to work.
Yeah.
Okay. Then they're not ready.
Yeah. What's the deal with Stampede going with the WWF again as a territory? I've been hearing rumors about that.
I don't think there's anything to that at all.
Really?
I don't think there's anything to that.
Okay.
They've already got 2 developmental territories. They've got 3 developmental territories. They got Puerto Rico, they got Ohio Valley, and they got Memphis. They don't really need another one.
Yeah, I think I read on some site that someone's reporting that Bruce has been in talks with Shane, I think, or something like that.
Oh, I'm sure that's what Bruce has been wanting for years. I mean, Bruce has wanted that thing for 20 years, and for a time in the 80s, they were sort of an unofficial developmental territory. Vince sent guys, like Outback Jack and Ted Arcidi and people like that to learn to wrestle to Bruce. And, it's funny, the ones who Bruce taught to wrestle never ended up in the WWF, except for, I guess, Owen. But, and Benoit 15 years later. But, I'm sure he wants that. Every independent promoter wants an affiliation with WWF right now because because of the money involved. And, for someone else to pay the talent, that's a great thing to have if you're an independent promoter. But I don't know. I will say this. I would be absolutely stunned if the WWF works, and I could be wrong, but I would be stunned if the WWF works any kind of a deal in Calgary with Bruce Hart, even though Bruce would like it.
Yeah. Also, I haven't heard the story behind it, but what's really the deal between the Michaels Bulldog match and In Your House 8, where Michaels basically throws a tantrum mid-match?
That's about it. That was it.
Michaels threw tantrums in a lot of matches.
Yeah, it was
I
just
remember
like
SummerSlam with Vader, he threw a tantrum.
Bulldog had him in a chin lock, and he's just sitting there whining to Earl the entire time he's in the chin lock.
Yeah, it was something about, that was the one in Charleston, right? Beware of Dog, where they had all the screw-ups?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Sean and Bulldog both were in a really bad mood because the show was already killed by the power failure, and they felt that they should probably not even do the match. They should just do the match on Tuesday and kill the show, but they brought them out after all this, and it was just a bad situation. And then plus, they got off on the wrong foot in the match, and both of them blamed the other one. And Sean was a perfectionist, and when things didn't go his way, he complained long and loud. That's another one of the reasons why he's not a main eventer today, if he could work a match. He's not, that's one of why they're predisposed negatively towards him. But yeah, that was it. You know, because both of them thought that, you know, why don't we just can this match and do it on Tuesday? And the decision was no, go out there and do the match. And then when there was like, I don't remember what the screw ups were, but there were. And then once there were, they never really recovered from them, both of them.
You know, Shawn must have been so confident with, like, where he was on the card and that nothing would ever happen to him. Because I remember he threw a tantrum in his match with Vader when he was, like, coming off the top to do something and Vader was supposed to move and he didn't. And Shawn just starts yelling at him and kicking his head. And I thought to myself, you know, if there was one man that I would never throw a tantrum in the ring with, that man would be Vader because he would kill me. But Shawn knew nothing was going to happen to him.
Is there something you were bringing up, Sinister Minister with that one guy? There's a question on the email. I heard that, like, a fireball, a fire gig, messed up and he, like, got really bad burns all over him.
Oh, it blew off his finger?
Yeah, like he lost part of his hand. Is he still recovering or coming back to wrestling after that, or?
He came back to wrestling very quickly after that. He was on ECW pay-per-views, and
like,
you know,
the next show.
Yeah, he's just, you know, if he's just waiting for someone to pick him up, and you know, if he can get something going, you know. But no, yeah, he was back pretty quick from it, actually.
Well, that's pretty amazing. Well, you know, that's all I got. So, thanks for your time.
Okay, cool. Real quick, I'm gonna go to a break right after this. This is a question about the top 10 pay-per-views of all time in terms of buys, and I don't know them off the top of my head, but as far as like this is of everything, boxing, wrestling, concerts. There's no concert that is anywhere in the ballpark of the big wrestling and boxing ones. Now, the biggest buy rates were Tyson and Holyfield. This last WrestleMania was the biggest buy rate ever for a wrestling show. I think there's probably been, I would say, a half a dozen, maybe a little bit more boxing. The biggest ones are all boxing shows, and then the next rung are all WWF wrestling shows. You know, like the last couple of years of WrestleManias. And then you've got a million wrestling shows and boxing shows kind of in a mix, you know, between, let's say, you know, 300,000 and 700,000 buys. This is from Wendell, who goes, whatever happened to Dick Togo? I think he's just started back a couple weeks ago with Michinoku Pro Wrestling. He'd been working for Osaka Pro, but they had money problems and he stopped working there. This is from JP in San Francisco. The Jeff Hardy push reminds me of the Ricky Morton singles push against Ric Flair in the mid-'80s. The reason it does is because that is exactly what it's based on. That match, the tag team match was supposed to be Ric Flair and Arn Anderson against the Rock and Roll Express, the one with Hunter and Austin against the Hardy Boys, and then the singles push is supposed to be Ric Flair and Ricky Morton. That's exactly it. It goes, I remember.
So what did Ric Flair say in his first promo after losing the belt? Because I want to compare it to Hunter's last night.
He never lost to Ricky Morton. He always beat him. So he did better interviews too.
Hunter got a good interview last night.
On Thursday?
I think the thing about it was he was just enraged, and the fact that he was so angry about it kind of put over Jeff and the belt as being more than it's been portrayed as being lately. So I thought it was cool.
I thought that he was very good in his interview, and then I thought when Austin grabbed the mic, he was so amazing that all of a sudden I didn't think Hunter was all that good anymore.
Oh, on SmackDown?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, Steve Austin, what a great... anyway.
I mean, the thing about Austin lately is that, I mean, Hunter cuts a good promo, but he cuts those promos where it's one of those things where I'll write down, you know, Hunter could have said what he said in 10 seconds, and it took him 15 minutes. And with Austin, I don't feel like that. It's like, you know, I can watch this for 15 minutes, and it stays good for 15 minutes.
There's some... I don't know. He's just something about him. It's like...
And then running down the crowd one at a time, that was great.
I think he's a more believable character.
Yeah.
Not that Hunter's not believable, but just, I don't know, some Austin's are just
you kind of know that Hunter is, I think a lot of it is just the way that they've really protected Austin from, you know, outside, you know, they always say for like, the Wrestling with Shadows, you know, you can't get Austin out of character, you can't get Undertaker out of character. You know, we see Hunter on Conan O'Brien being a geek, and we've seen him in DX acting like a goof, and Austin has just always been this angry redneck in the WWF, and he does the same persona when he goes on Conan O'Brien or whatever. So it's more believable that, you know, this is just a guy that, you know, he hates everybody.
Okay, anyway, he goes, I remember the Morton-Flair matches being very good. Actually, some of them were awesome. But there was a believability problem with the feud. Bill Watts told me that, too, by the way. They had a match at the Superdome, and it didn't draw a great crowd, although I don't remember what the crowd was offhand. It was a good crowd. and he just goes, damn, you know, they had an awesome match, and there's nobody who believed that Ricky Morton can beat Ric Flair, and damn it, that's why the crowd was so bad. And he might have been right, too. But anyway,
Ricky should have beat him.
What? Ricky should have won?
Ricky should have beat him.
Okay, they slowly built up Morton. He wasn't ready for the world title. People would have turned on him. At that period, they would have turned on Ricky Morton in a heartbeat if he'd won the title from Flair. Because the guys were waiting to turn on him anyway, which they eventually did, because the girls liked him so much. They slowly built up Morton by showing close matches on TV and gradually turned him into a somewhat believable contender. I happened to be at one of the Great American Bash stops that summer that had a Flair-Morton title match, and the crowd reaction during the match showed that Morton's push was pretty effective. After watching the SmackDown Thursday and finding out that a Triple H Jeff Hardy rematch would be taking place on Raw, it seems like Jeff scoring the win so early in the feud was a mistake. Actually, I disagree, because Jeff needed the win. Whereas Ricky Morton was so over in that realm that he didn't need the win for the feud. But you see, the difference is Ricky Morton went on TV and tore Ric Flair's pants off and did all that humiliating stuff to Ric Flair, so he didn't pin him. I mean, if Jeff Hardy stripped Triple H to his underwear, but then, you know, or did something like, you know, poured maple syrup in his hair, he wouldn't need the win either. But you know, with Ricky Morton, it wasn't the one. Since everybody would beat Ric Flair 1, 2, 3, they instead concentrate on humiliating Ric Flair. With Hunter, since you don't beat him, by beating him, it's something. So it's actually the same thing, even though the end result of the matches was different. If they're serious about a push for Jeff, they should put him in a chase situation where they could build the credibility around the top level guy. I think the whole thing with Jeff is where they go from here. He had to be
built up to where it would be a believable chase, first off.
Yeah, because nobody would have believed.
You can't really have a chase if nobody believes that the guy who's chasing is ever going to get, just like Dave was just talking about.
Yeah. The other thing with Flair is that Flair was so believable and that everybody, the fans believed that everyone could beat him to an extent. I guess in New Orleans they didn't believe about Ricky because that's what Watts said. But with Hunter's portrayed so strong that really, unless Jeff beats him, nobody really believes he can. Because Hunter never did jobs, or almost never did jobs.
Looking back also, I was thinking of some wins that would have helped elevate people. Remember SummerSlam where they'd been, hyping up forever that Hunter was going to go for his world title, and this was the only thing he cared about, and he lived his life for it. And it ended up being like that three-way with Austin, Foley, and Hunter. And ended up with Foley getting the title there, because I guess they wanted to swerve people and everything like that. But
that's what I was all about, to swerve people.
Kind of took the steam off Hunter, and even though he got the title the next night, I mean, he wasn't really looked at by a lot of fans as, like, the top guy. And it took a bunch of clean wins over Foley, just beating him match after match after match clean, with the pedigree to get him up there. So, I just think
you know what the big mistake they made with Hunter was? And that was when Russo was writing. During that chase period, if you remember the build-up of that SummerSlam, because I was so mad at that build-up. Because remember, they had Hunter do a job for China, and then China was going to be against Austin in the singles match. And then they switched it to a three-way. I mean,
oh, yeah.
They kept changing the main event every single week instead of just going with Hunter and Austin and building it up hard. And that changing of it, I think, just, weakened it greatly. Because that was the year that they had Jesse as referee, and they did more buys for SummerSlam the year before without Jesse. And remember all the pub that Jesse got, being the sitting governor and everything. And, afterwards, it was like, your build-up for the main event couldn't touch the year before because you had Austin and Undertaker. Everyone knew what the match was, and you focused on it. This one, you throw, for a couple of weeks there, it was like China's in the main event. Who wants to buy that, against Steve Austin?
They were going all out because there were radio commercials up here during that period that were actually billing China as going for the title at SummerSlam, and I couldn't even believe listening to it on the radio. Like, what kind of a draw? Even if that's not going to be the match in the end, why would you air a commercial for a match that no one in their right mind could really want to see?
Well, they did have China really over at that time, but still,
not over enough to headline against Steve Austin for the title.
Oh, you're right. This is from Scott Foy. I got the perfect idea how they should promote WCW. Raw goes to a commercial, and there's Shane McMahon sitting against his black backdrop. He starts off by saying everywhere he goes, people come up to him and ask, "Where's my wrestling?" I bet we all see where this one's going. He then goes on to talk about how WF wrestlers wear panties and how WCW is returning good old-fashioned smash mouth wrestling. He then goes on to rant about how the WCW wrestlers aren't overpaid like the WF wrestlers, and the WCW wrestlers have more heart and are really in it not for the money but for the love of the game. It concludes with WCW uttering the phrase, "WCW, it's real wrestling." Future commercials will feature Arn Anderson walking around an empty arena reminiscing about the old days of pro wrestling, and Stacy Keibler inside the locker room talking about what it's like to work in a man's business while stripping down to her bra and panties. Sounds familiar. Let's go to one more, and then we'll start going back to the calls. From Joe Hamilton. This is a show that we heard a lot about, boy. Saturday night CCW in Smyrna, Delaware. It was definitely the sickest thing I have seen live in 20-plus years of watching wrestling. Jun Kasai was powerbombed from the ring.
Wasn't he the same guy that jumped off the building?
Yeah, last week.
Okay.
Same guy. Jun Kasai is attempting to make his name. I'm really interested to see those pictures in the Japanese magazines in the next couple weeks of him, because clearly that's what he's doing this for. I'm going to have a tape of this, hopefully by the end of the week, of that CCW thing, but I've been told that, I was told that it's something that you have to see. It's the bloodiest match in the history of wrestling. And by people who, by people who've seen, every bloody match in the history of wrestling, not by someone who's, Anyway, Jun Kasai was powerbombed from the ring to a bunch of chairs that had fluorescent light bulbs laid across them. When Kasai got up from that bump, his back was shredded. He had a huge chunk of skin flapping off his elbow. Yeah, they have close-ups of his bone sticking out and his tricep muscle sticking out. Earlier in the show, Rick Blade did a swanton off of a huge Ryder truck through Trent Acid, who was on a table outside the hall. Both landed on the concrete. The funniest thing I've ever seen also happened at the show. We were waiting on one of the boys to give him a ride back to Baltimore, and the crew had just started taking the ring down when there was a loud siren that was sent off. It turned out a fire alarm, and a bunch of guys from the neighborhood started running down the street at midnight. They were volunteers for the fire department where the show was held at. And so you have guys like Nick Mondo and Man Pondo walking around covered in blood, and you have guys getting their fire gear running past them. I guess, wow, that's pretty strange. Let's see. On behalf of my hometown, Crawfordsville, Indiana, I apologize to the wrestling world for Jim Hellwig. Oh, my God. Nice. Let's go to Phil. Phil, what's going on today, Phil?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Doing good.
Watched a lot of wrestling this weekend, so I was going to talk to you guys a little about it. Okay. Man, I heard about Muto beating Kawada, and it's just so disheartening, because I watched that Muto-Murakami match from the 0-1 pay-per-view. Right. I guess
that was Otani and Murakami.
No, I'm talking about Murakami Muto from New Japan pay-per-view. Sorry about that.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that one.
Such a horrible match. Muto's so bad now. I mean, he did nothing. And then the knee strike he won with was the weakest looking thing.
Oh, it's so bad. That's such a bad finisher.
6 inches. And then he just pins him, and I just looked at it, oh.
Yeah.
And you know what Muto looks amazingly like now is the Dragon Master from the JTEX Corporation. The bald head, the little staff.
Yeah, Sakuraba.
He wrestles like him too. He wrestles like him too. It's So I mean, the fact that he beat Kawada with that same knee smash, it's just.
Yeah, but it's Kawada, so maybe he just laid into him with it.
I hope so. Well, it's Murakami. I mean, have you seen any Murakami, Brian? If you're going to lay into anybody, you'll lay into Murakami. I mean,
Murakami for a guy who's gone into wrestling from shoot fighting, he's tremendous.
Oh, he's awesome. He's he's not the greatest wrestler in the world, but he's really my favorite wrestler to watch at this point.
He's great. He's great in angles.
Yeah, and he's so surly and always looks pissed off, and he beats the hell out of people. It's just a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
You were talking about Jun Kasai. Have you seen any Jun Kasai in Big Japan?
Yes, I have.
He's not afraid to die. I mean, I remember he had one match against Matsunaga, where Matsunaga put a fluorescent light bulb, a tube in his mouth, then punched him, and broke it in his mouth.
Oh, that's sick.
Yeah, he started spitting out blood, and it was just looking, what am I watching?
That's just sick.
So it's just Jun Kasai is, I mean, I remember the first time I saw him, I was
See, I don't understand the point of doing that to make a name, because, okay, you make a name as somebody that will bleed and have your arm ripped so the tricep shows, and where's that name going to get you?
Well, I mean, look at you just brought up the name Matsunaga. I mean, I remember, Matsunaga was the first guy to dive off a balcony. And he sort of got a cult following, but, I mean, he messed up his knees so bad that he never could do anything
anyway. Did he light
his
head on fire?
Yeah, Pogo lit his head on fire.
Oh, I saw that.
Where did that get him?
Well, got him main eventing garbage leagues in Japan until he's 1,000 years old.
Great.
Well, it's a foreign country, guys. I mean, there's plenty of people doing it.
I understand trying to make a name for yourself, like Jeff Hardy in the WWF, killing himself night after night because he hopes that someday he'll beat Hunter, which he ended up doing. But, to do that and not really have anywhere to go except, top of the cart in a garbage.
To the top of Big Japan.
Yeah, I don't know.
Well, Brian, I saw Jeff Hardy take the same sort of stupid bumps in armories in front of 75 people in North Carolina before he was even, and he thought about him beating Hunter in the WWF.
And look at the stuff Mick Foley did early in his career. I mean, he did the same stuff for $1 million, but he did it for $50 too.
Yeah,
But I mean, at least when Jeff Hardy was doing it, you had Mick Foley there at the top. And so he's going, well, I take these bumps, Mick Foley takes these bumps, Mick Foley's at the top. But, I mean, right now, what guy in a major promotion is making a ton of money is just absolutely, getting his tricep ripped out.
But, it's like you have the whole the master-student relationship in Japanese wrestling that's different from anything in America. I mean, I think, probably somebody like Jun Kasai or somebody like Tomokai Hanma, that their goal is to be the top of Big Japan as something meaningful, rather than headline New. I mean, Jun Kasai's a tiny guy. I mean, he's never going to headline New Japan. I mean, he's smaller than most of the New Japan juniors. But I mean, in a weird way, I bet that he wants to be Matsunaga because maybe that's who he grew up idolizing, and it's just something different than America.
Well, it's just something. It's just the proving he can take. It's same reason why a lot of the guys that do the hardcore stuff in the United States. I mean, like how many of them really think that they're going to end up? I mean, even though they idolize Mick Foley, do they really think they're going to end up in Mick Foley's spot? It's just one of those things. It's if you can it's a way to be somebody. I mean, that's what, a lot of the guys, that go to wrestling school. I mean, how many of them really think they're going to go to the WWF? But they can be somebody.
I think you'd be surprised.
Well, you're around them more than me, so.
You would be surprised.
And, switching gears a little bit from indie garbage wrestling to indie teen bop wrestling, I watched some Mat Rats the other day. And have you seen the Evans brothers wrestle that match on the Mat Rats days?
I don't know if I have.
They're identical twins, or very close to identical twins.
And they wrestle each other.
You know what? They're not even related.
Really?
Yeah.
Because they look
in fact, they came down here. They worked for us, and everyone thought that they were brothers. They talked like they were brothers. They were billed as brothers. And then one day, Jake comes up to me and goes, "This guy's not my brother. Don't tell Tim. They're not even related."
Oh, you wrestle them? Because I was really impressed by the match they had on there. They were moving at, as far as the speed and actual, specific work rate, the amount of moves they were doing a minute. It was, about as fast as, All Japan Women from 95 or some, British stuff that I've seen. I mean, they were, counters and things like that were just really fast. Man, the promotion's booked horribly. It's his booked.
In fact, I wrestled Jake, 3 months ago, and it was, his fifth match. If that tells anything.
Oh, really? I mean, I was really impressed. I was and I've watched the other stuff, and I wasn't that impressed by any of the other guys, but that was they were doing some stuff where they were just, doing all these crazy flip outs and just moving at a really fast speed. So those are some guys that, when that promotion folds, which I assume it will eventually, they seem to be
unfortunately.
Yeah, that seems to be those guys had some promise. So how was the match you had with him, Brian?
Oh, he did good. He did good. I mean, it was afterwards, he came up to me and goes, "That was my sixth match," and it was wow, you're awesome.
Oh, really? Yeah, I think I have to get a tape of that. Do you have that on tape?
Yeah, I have it on tape.
Okay, we'll have to take a look at that. And I guess I'll talk a little about the WWF because I actually watched the last couple of weeks, which is rare for me. You're talking about Hunter and the character, and I think the problem I have with him is I don't buy the vest. The fringe vest he's wearing now. I'm sorry, I don't know.
I don't like it either
with that, but that's my big problem.
The funniest line you had in the Observer, Dave, was a couple of months ago. Just out of nowhere, you wrote, the jean jacket over the leather jacket was a real hot style in the 70s, and I thought that was
when I was in high school, that's what they would. You know why they would wear it? Because it was actually, you know what? I don't know why they would wear it. People, I used to think it was ridiculous then too. Yeah, because it's but I think that what it was one of the styles they had then was these guys that lifted weights, and I don't think too many of them did steroids in those days, but they would wear these thick jackets, but they would still want to show their arms on these really freezing nights. And I would always think great, I lift weights too, but it's freezing out, and I'm not, you know what I mean? I don't need to show I have big arms in 35-degree weather, but that's how I remember the jeans jacket. And then afterwards, then you start doing the jacket underneath that sleeveless jacket, and I'm just thinking what the hell is this?
Oh. Mm-hmm. But I mean, with that particular look he's got going with him, and it's the backwards leather cap and the whole weird homoerotic thing Austin's doing with Rock, it's they're doing a Midnight Cowboy tag team gimmick or something like that.
You know what I mean? Need to get heat.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because you've got him going.
I don't think that you should tell them they're doing that because then they'll stop it right away. I somehow do not think that that's their plan.
That's what it comes off to us. It's this weird, creepy, top, like a cruising or sort of a cruising gimmick. And
I thought it was just these two guys bullies that were all together on the same side. That it's just sort of oh my God, now they're on the same side.
Well, they're so tough and manly, and but because the Ross thing had to be. There's no way that was unintentional. The thing with him stroking Ross's head and talking about a pretty hat he has.
Yeah. That was meant to be creepy, but that was more to I don't think that. I mean, I know it was out of Deliverance and everything like that. Some of those lines, but I think that it was more to just mess with Raw. Everyone knew what he was doing, but it wasn't meant. I don't think that anyone has any. What's the word I'm looking for?
It was more mind games than Austin actually thinking that Ross had a cute hat on.
Yeah, I don't think they want to portray the idea that Steve Austin is actually homosexual or anything like that. I think that's the farthest thing from their mind. It's just one of those things where they just wanted to, really harass Ross because Ross couldn't physically do anything about it.
Yeah, well, that's what I think they're coming. That's the way it's coming off to me, at least. I don't know. I think that they should. But I think it's kind of an interesting angle. It's a different way.
You're thinking more about their product than they are now.
Yeah, well, it's wrestling.
We were all guilty of that, actually.
And I had one other quick question. I watched the 0-1 pay-per-view. I watched in the New Japan, both of them. And a couple comments on that. I think Silver King looked so awesome in that six-man tag. The junior six-man tag was him.
Guess
Doc
what?
Wagner.
The tape I got started with the second match. I've never seen that match yet.
Oh man, you got to get your hands on that because the parts where Silver King wrestles Minoru Tanaka, they're in there together. It's just so great. Silver King looks like he did back when before he looks like he lost a little weight. He looks a lot more cut, and the stuff with him and Minoru Tanaka was just so great. They were so fast and countering each other's stuff. Like Minoru Tanaka would do the shoot style takedowns, and then Silver King would spin around in some weird lucha dos caras thing. It was just great. I mean, Silver King looked like he was the top 15, top 20 worker in the world, which I thought he always was, but never could do anything like that in WCW.
Every time you see those guys somewhere else, oh my God, it's like you shake my head.
Yeah, you just get sad.
All the great things Silver King could have done in the 3 years the 3-year vacation he had. I was like, he might as well have had a blown out knee or something like that. And I was wondering, where's Hoshikawa now? Because he had that.
Now, Hiro Hoshikawa, he was trying to get a job with 0-1. Didn't he was working for Osaka Pro, and then they left over money, and he just hadn't gotten a job anywhere else. But yeah, he had a hell of a match on that 0-1.
Oh man, that match against Mirufuji, how many stars did you give that?
4.
Yeah, I mean that's about. I don't do star ratings, but that was about what I thought it was about.
Marufuji, they were both real. I mean, that's like an opening match, and you're going like, man, what an opener.
Right. I mean, I think Hoshikawa looked really good in his end run, like the last maybe 4 or 5 months he was in Osaka Pro too. But I mean, that match was just out of control good, and by far better than anything I've ever seen Mirufuji in.
Well, Mirufuji stuff lately though he's gotten really good lately.
Yeah, it's hard for me to watch that Noah because it's just such. I don't know. I haven't really enjoyed a single Noah show I've watched. I don't think.
Really? Some of them have been okay.
Some of them okay.
Looks
so bad. All right,
Phil, I gotta get running, okay? Because we're late on break.
All right, see you guys later.
Let's see. What have you heard about Triple H Jeff Hardy match tonight? I have not asked anyone because I just don't want to know. That's the truth. And will Triple H allow Jeff to go over? It's not. Put it this way: if the bookers want Jeff to win clean, Triple H is not going to say no. I'm sure Triple H himself is actually the one who's putting this program together in many ways. So it's not. You got to understand.
So he'll come out on top in the end somehow.
Well, he'll come out on top on the end, but that doesn't mean he may lose tonight. I mean, I mean, the thing is, it's not the result of tonight's match that's really important. It's does Jeff Hardy get elevated from this point? And I kind of heard an angle that they might do, in which case it might be a surprise. And it'll probably make no sense if they do it. We'll see. Let's see. We'll find out tonight what they do. I have a question.
Oh, no.
What? Oh, you figured it out already? Okay. Then you probably got it then. It's been bugging me for a long time. What was the name of the fictitious Global World Championship that Joe Pedicino mentioned on a broadcast of GWF Wrestling in 1991? God, I don't remember. I don't know. I thought, this is from Carl, I thought the one-finger push pin with Hogan and Nash was a potentially good idea, but it was poorly thought out and executed. Do you think there was any way that angle could have been pulled off successfully? Not without killing the title. Let's see. No WCW, no ECW, only the WWF. The wrestling scene here in the UK is now officially dead. This is from Jay Thompson. I love how the XFL has changed the name of the championship game to the $1 Million game, representing the amount of money that will be split among the winners. Given the well-known salaries of NFL and other athletes, it's like starting a game show going, who wants to win a few $1,000? My question is, you have said that WOW can't succeed. Is that because it's women's wrestling or because it's David McLean? It's because of the economics.
There's a lot of different reasons that WOW cannot survive.
Of how they were operating. Go ahead, Brian.
Oh, I'm just saying, I think there's a lot of different reasons. Dave McLean, I'm sure, is one of them. The fact that it's, it's kind of the audience that's searching for, I don't even know what it is, if it's young men or whatever, but I don't think that, hardcore wrestling fans are watching Raw and Nitro, or formerly Nitro, are going to be interested in Glow, just, production problems, so much money that has to go into it. I think there's like a million different reasons.
What is the status of Tajiri? Tajiri's under contract with WWF. They're just waiting to figure out what to do with him. Let's see. Do you think
watching Kaientai get crushed by Undertaker and Kane, I think everyone should be happy that he's sitting home and getting paid and not on TV.
When I watched Kaientai on SmackDown, you know what popped into my head? It was like, oh my God, this is what happens when they sign Rey Mysterio Jr.
Yep.
Except they
Rey at least can speak English.
They do Mexican jokes instead of... Yeah, but maybe this character can't, because Taka can, too.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you think Shane Helms will get a top spot in WCW? I think he'll get a good position. I don't know about what I don't know.
The thing with Taka, though, is when he first came in, it was like, here's this guy that no one in this country has seen. He doesn't speak English at the time, so it really wouldn't make sense if he's... I guess it wouldn't make sense if Kane started talking either, but he did. But, with Ray... Everyone's seen Ray talk. They know he can talk. They know he can speak English, so I don't think that they would take him down that many notches and debut him as a mute or someone who can't speak English.
Okay, just in the 1970s and 60s, George Steele did great interviews, and then later in his career, he couldn't talk English. So, anyway, Andy Rapada, earlier you mentioned midgets. How come we don't get great midget matches in the U.S. like we did in the 70s? Watch back on tape. They weren't that great. I saw many of them. I thought midgets were hilarious and quite entertaining. They were, for a sideshow thing, and they actually drew in some places and things like that, like a once-a-year gimmick thing for kids. I got a kick out of the midget gimmick the first time I saw it, or the first few times. After a while, it's the exact same match every time out, same joke, so whatever. Because I know Vince Russo tried when he brought in Beetlejuice. Beetlejuice was not a midget wrestler, guys. But other than the Al Snow campaign, we seldom see the world-famous midgets. The Al Snow campaign was not good either. Remember when he wrestled those four? Oh, that was horrible.
That was funny when Regal got a hold of the midgets, though.
Yeah. Let's see. I grew up in Toronto and used to watch wrestling on Saturday mornings at a local wrestling school that was filmed in a cheap gym featuring such talent as the Mongolian who wore a sheepskin vest and ate goldfish. Could you please tell me the name of the federation? I suspect it was not Maple Leaf Wrestling. I don't know. Local thing. How old is Bradshaw? Let's see. He was about 31 when I saw him on a certain day. And what year was that? I'm thinking it was 1994.
How do you remember these things?
So I'm guessing 37, 38. He's older than you think. Okay, here's a note on Batman. Tony Marino and Bruno Sammartino won the now-defunct WWF International Tag Team titles, the predecessor to the WWF World Tag Team titles.
It's now defunct?
The International is defunct, yeah. Yeah, they've been defunct for since probably 72.
I was kidding.
Okay, and then Victor Rivera replaced Sammartino. Maybe you could ask Bruno the reason behind the title change and replacements. I think Bruno was the world champion. They probably didn't want him to hold both belts, but we can ask Bruno. He'll be here. There was a report on 4Wrestling.com saying that Vincent Jr. told Shawn Michaels to lose his attitude or he would never come back, but now they said we could see him as early as a month. Is this true? I don't know. The last I asked about Shawn was a week ago, and they said that he wasn't even, that no one even mentions his name, as far as, they haven't even brought up considering bringing him back. But, things change. I can't imagine.
I'm sure he was told to lose the attitude.
Yeah.
Probably about 100 times.
Yeah. Let's see. Who has received the single largest payday for one performance in the history of wrestling? I would guess Hogan and Andre, $750 at WrestleMania in 1987. Have you ever heard of because I didn't hear what Austin made. Well, he wouldn't. I think Austin Rock may make more this year, but that's the biggest. There may have been someone. Oh, I take that back. That's wrong. That's wrong.
What about Inoki?
No, but that's still wrong. The most that anyone has made for a performance in the history of wrestling was Mike Tyson, $3.5 million at that WrestleMania. And the second was Dennis Rodman, which was $2.25 million for that Bash at the Beach match. The most that any wrestler has ever made were Hogan and Andre at $750. Let's go to Scott in Connecticut.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey.
Got a lot of things out of my mind. One is, do you guys think Jeff Hardy needs a new name if they're going to push him?
No.
No? You think they can go with just Jeff Hardy?
He's good, yeah. I think gimmick names are so overrated in this day and age. Doesn't matter.
Maybe just a nickname like the Heartbreak Kid Shawn Michaels, you know?
Oh,
they
they
could
could
give
give
Shawn
him
Michaels. They could give him a nickname, but I don't think they need to change the Jeff Hardy part.
Yeah, I mean, like Stone Cold Steve Austin, and then most people call him Stone Cold, you know?
Well, they could give him a nickname, sure, but...
Yeah, that's what I think they're going to need to do, because, I mean... I mean, when they first gave them the gimmick, the Hardy Boys, is that kind of like a rib, you think?
No, that's their name.
That's their name.
The last name is Hardy?
Yeah, they're Master Jeff Hardy. That's their real name.
Because I remember when I mean, the first time I saw them on WWF a long time ago, and they came out and they were in those god-awful plaid tights. It was just like the Hardy Boys. And I remember I was at the arena, and this woman was there with her kids, and she goes, "Don't we have some of their books?" And I was like, oh no. But, I mean, and then another thing is, is with some WCW guys. I've heard a lot of guys like, Kanyon, Billy Kidman, Rey Mysterio, guys they want, but since they're getting paid so much, the only way they're going to get them is if, there's such a mark for the business that they'll wrestle for less just to wrestle,
Well, it depends on...
I don't know if you could so much call it a mark for the business, just wanting to have a career.
I mean, I can understand that. I mean, personally, if I was in a position which, it's hard to, I mean, you can't really think, well, if I could have $800,000 to sit at home, what would I do? But I mean, I'm thinking if I was Billy Kidman, the guy at his age, I mean, what could happen is if he gets over in WWF, his contract could get raised, or, he could make money on merch, So, I mean,
the other thing is, when you're that age, you have to realize, okay, maybe I'm making $800,000 a year for 2 years, but in 2 years, I'm going to be making $0 a year.
Yeah.
And I'm going to be out of the spotlight for 2 years, and, it may be a lot harder for me to get a job there at that point.
Or it may be easier. Because if you're gone for a while, you can be brought in as a fresh face.
If you're a bigger name, it's something like in 2 years, people might really be wanting to see me again, and I can come back and, get a big raise.
Mm-hmm.
You just never know you never know what's going to happen 6 months from now in wrestling. I mean, it's just one of those things where, you just got to make a decision and then go with it, and it very well could be the wrong one.
Question I had is Nick, can you name some other people that fall into that category or get around paid that amount of money?
Everyone.
All the mid-carders.
Basically everyone in the company except for the 24 guys and the guys that they don't, and the few guys that they don't want.
Well, I mean, the guys that they are interested in, like Kanyon, Billy Kidman. Is there anyone else that?
Scott Steiner, Ric Flair, Bill Goldberg.
Well, yeah, I know that. I mean, what about guys
like,
that could really get mentioned a lot, like Conan and stuff?
I don't know what their status is. Wall, I haven't heard any interest in the Wall, but I don't know. I mean, he's a big guy. Sometimes they like big guys. I don't know.
I think it's generally guys that you would not want to bring in, probably would not be brought in.
Yeah.
Well, just want to mention, because I talked to someone who's involved in this. These decisions have not been made at all. Okay, I mean, this week they are actually doing fact finding. Jim Ross is actually going to be meeting with a lot of people in WCW. And he's asked a lot of people for their input, and then he's going to look at it, and then they're going to start making these decisions. Although, I mean, vaguely, on a lot of the guys, I think they've got a pretty darn good idea of who they want and who they don't want. But, I mean, they haven't offered anyone contracts. As far as the guys,
the beauty of this thing is, where they're the only game in town. They get an idea. One of the bookers has an idea with a guy. They say they come over with a character for a guy like maybe the Wall or Crowbar or something like that. It doesn't work. They don't even have to put him under contract till it starts working.
No, but they're going to sign it. They're not going to put someone on TV without a contract.
I mean, why not, though? There's not that risk anymore.
There's not a why not. They are not going to put someone on television without a contract.
And did you guys know Bret Hart's doing an independent tour?
He's doing autograph signings and stuff. He's not wrestling.
Well, he's going to be at some shows. He's not
wrestling at the shows, but he's doing autograph signings. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I just found out about that. He's coming over here. And then, did you guys?
I heard he's got a new commercial out too.
Did you guys hear X Factor's music?
Oh,
yes,
of course.
What's up with that?
How god-awful is that music?
It doesn't fit the guys at all.
It doesn't fit wrestling at all. It's like a country western. First, all right, maybe for someone with that character, a song that has that type of feel to it, but just the way it starts off like a regular radio tune, and then it kicks into a wrestling theme, It's so weird.
If you put Billy Gunn and X-Pac together, it might work, but...
Billy Gunn, I don't know about him, and I'm hearing he's going to WCW, and,
if they want to kill... But they certainly are leaning... I mean, certainly wanting people to think that, and they probably will do it, too.
If they want to kill WCW, literally kill, because he's going to drop someone and they're going to die, put Billy Kidman in WCW.
You mean
Billy Gunn?
Yeah. I said Billy Kidman, sorry, Billy Gunn. Yeah, when I saw him wrestle Benoit, and he almost killed him on Raw, I was like, no. And then you know what happened the next week? He won the belt. So,
yeah, well. Well, he hasn't won it since, so.
And don't you think Austin should get some new music too?
No, I love his music.
Well, I mean, it's that music that makes you want to pop, you know? Any character or not, you just get
I know, it's babyface music.
Well, he did take away the standing on the corner and raising his hands in the air. Now he just stands there, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They've done something.
Yeah, and you think Shane McMahon's going to have an on-air role?
Yes, absolutely. For sure.
You think, so you think?
Well, I mean, wait a minute. Of course, the whole thing's gonna be built around him.
Yeah.
Of course, he's gonna have an on-air role.
He already has an on-air role. The thing hasn't even started yet.
I know what?
He's the only guy they've signed with an on-air role.
Yeah, I liked an idea that someone had. I don't remember if it was on the Law last night or it was on your show today. Was that Goldberg? How they should get him over is that he's not in WCW nor is he in WWF, and he shows up on both shows. Kind of like wandering in the back and stuff.
First they have to sign Goldberg.
He's lost.
And both Vince and like he shows up in the desert. How about that? But both Vince and Shane are going for him, and he's kind of like I don't want.
He's the free agent they're both bidding for. That's a good idea.
Yeah, I like that idea because then it's more like that can go for a long time. Then you eventually put him in one of the promotions to do the feud with the other one. That's a good way to draw it out.
Didn't they do that with like Sid Vicious, whether he was going to be a babyface or a heel one of those years?
Mm-hmm.
Both sides go, and then they ended up.
Yeah, but I really the worst thing.
For somebody.
I'm just thinking of that promo they had. The promo they had for that pay-per-view where the ad was Goldberg didn't follow the script. Do you remember that? Do you remember that?
That was in the dark days. Remember that match where Kevin Nash did like 6 moves? And they were playing it up. This has got to be a shoot. He only does 3 moves.
And then they did the thing where Bill Goldberg doesn't follow the script. Doesn't follow the script, but everyone else on the card does, so they don't matter. But Goldberg does. And I was just
that whole period was death. It was horrible. Definitely. It couldn't have been done worse. One of the things I was with the indie show I was at, I was just talking to regular fans, and I mean it was just amazing because I started, we were talking about WCW, and it was just like. Well, that they went in there that they got sabotaged, right? And I go, believe it or not, I don't believe they did. I think it was like someone actually thought he knew what he was doing. No. That was total sabotage on that company.
I don't think they should do that, but I like the idea of him, being a free agent,
No, Goldberg is a free agent, but they got to get off the dime and sign him if
Why don't they? I don't understand. I think they should.
They don't want to upset their salary structure, at least that's what they're saying.
I mean, how much does The Rock get a year?
The Rock's like, Rock's guarantee may only be like $500,000 or $1 million, but he's probably making $5 million plus.
Oh, because of merch and because of outside stuff like movies. Right?
No, just from wrestling. Well, merchandise helps too, though. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I mean, just payoffs and everything.
So I don't understand how it's upsetting your salary structure. If you got Goldberg, who's going to be an instant top guy and is going to make a lot of money for you in the long run. Why is it upsetting it to put some money as a down payment on this guy?
I think that same thing, especially since Big Show got what he got.
Oh well, Big Show was probably the worst mistake WWF made in the last 2 years.
It didn't seem like a bad mistake at the time, though.
Well, they did their own mistake. It wasn't Big Show. Because, all right, a guy that size, there's only a certain amount of talent you can have at that size, And Big Show has the amount of talent where you could create a character where he's useful. But WWF killed it. I think WWF, that's their own fault.
They beat him and turned him too many times. That didn't help. Let's see. Balls Mahoney was banned for life in Maryland, and this is from WodenWrestling.com. He's got Balls Mahoney told his side of the story as it pertains to being banned for life from wrestling in the state of Maryland in an interview with Gabe Sapolsky at rfvideo.com. He noted that he's had problems with the commission before. He's been suspended twice. The blood was accidental when Van Dam struck him, reopening a cut from a previous match he had in Michigan. Mahoney said that he immediately called for a towel to wipe his face off. You're not allowed to bleed in Maryland, by the way, or blade in Maryland. And then he continued with the match rather than go to the finish, as he didn't want to cheat the fans out of their main event. When he returned to the locker room, Mahoney was disciplined by the commission's representative, who said he should have never gone to the ring if he thought he was going to end up bleeding.
Which was funny because someone else on the show ended up bleeding, but it wasn't profuse, so they let it slide.
Well, maybe the second one got him mad because the first one did it. You know what I mean? Just going, okay, now you're out of control. In regards to being banned, Mahoney said, F-U-C-K Maryland, and suggested fans write to the commission if they don't like the rule regarding blood. Oh, that's going to do a lot of good. Wrestling fans saying we need more blood.
Yeah, write-in campaign.
That's going to do great for that. That'll do great in that state. It's from Mike, who says,
send him to the WWF while you're at it.
Yeah. the XFL wants the NFL to take concepts and the players from them because if the NFL does that, then it will give the XFL the credibility as a sports franchise. Especially if
just like it gave ECW credibility.
That's right. The XFL is an exciting football league, and I enjoy the games. The XFL is a hardcore football fan's dream. It's the second pro football league in the States. It's like when a hardcore wrestling fan watches all the promotions, just the WWF. The hardcore wrestling fan likes Japanese, Mexican, and indie wrestling. The same goes for a hardcore football fan who wants to see the NFL, college, CFL, Arena League, and XFL. I know you two guys, this is what I'm going to get mad at.
The hardcore fans were unable to keep ECW in business.
Yes. Okay, he goes, I know you two guys are
hardcore football fans to make the XFL viable.
Okay, I'm going to get really mad at this sentence right here. He goes, I know that you two guys are against the league, but as a diehard football fan, I loved it. I am not against this league. I have never said, when I give a rating and say the rating isn't good, I am not against this league. When I give an attendance figure and say it isn't good, like when we did with WCW, I was not against WCW. I was trying to explain this company is on its way to going out of business because they are not taking in nearly as much money as they are spending. Therefore, they need to adjust what they do or they will be gone. Now they are gone. The XFL is in the same bracket. It's losing as much money as WCW. It's the WCW of football. All those things we say, that's that. Anyway. Oh, God. You know, it's like I got mad the other day, too. Someone was going like, well, you love Japanese wrestling so much. And it's like, I love good Japanese wrestling. I hate bad Japanese wrestling. I love good WF wrestling. I hate bad WF wrestling. I love good Mexican wrestling. I hate bad Mexican wrestling. It's not the country. You know, I mean, I think we got it like the day, all you do is say good things about New Japan. And it was actually the day we got this email, was the day of the Osaka Dome show. And I'm going like, please. So please listen to the show.
We sure praise that show.
Yeah, anyway. Let's see. So anyway. Just, you know, when giving numbers is not being against the league, saying that the league is losing tons of money is not being against the league. Personally, I enjoyed the league and watched a lot of the games, but it's not economically making it. Will they make it? Maybe. Is it a good idea in my mind for them to do a second season? No, I think it's a really bad idea. That doesn't mean I don't want them to do it, or I will be glad when they fold. I will not be glad when they fold because people will lose their job. Let's see. Did Jim Cornette really have a mother in Louisville that he talked about in the 80s? Yes, but she wasn't rich. And was Dennis Condrey fired and replaced by Stan Lane? No, Dennis just walked out. He just disappeared. And they had all these matches booked, and Jim Cornette, the story was Jim Cornette actually, he needed to find a partner real quick because Dennis just disappeared and went home. And so they actually tried to get Tom Pritchard for 3 or 4 days, couldn't find him, so then they called up Stan Lane, he came to TV, or else Tom Pritchard would have had that spot. So anyway, that's the story there. And why did Cornette leave WCW? He was just fed up with management at the time and just walked out and got mad. It's from Kobe Anderson, who notes you shouldn't leave the listeners hanging and let them know that John Tenta got his revenge on Bubba by shaving half of his beard off after beating him in a pay-per-view match. Let's see. Where were we? Let's go to Robert in Maryland. Robert, what's going on?
Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing?
Doing really good.
When was I guess the better way to ask it is, how good do handicap matches do as far as ratings go?
It depends on the match
and who's in it.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's not like it's necessarily good or bad. I mean,
if they had Al Snow versus Bull Buchanan versus Billy Gunn, I'm sure it wouldn't do too hot. But if it were like Hunter, Austin, Rock.
You're talking about handicap like 2-on-1s.
Hunter and Austin versus Rock.
But and in that case, you know, what if Rock almost single-handedly defeats them? You know, I'm just saying like it just takes away from the whole competition. I mean, again, of course it's fake, it's choreographed or
it's fake.
Right, but you know, I mean, do you think that's something good to do, or do fans not mind for the most part, or?
I think it really depends on how it's done.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't mind like the Benoit Angle Regal match so much because it was done pretty believable. I know Dave didn't like it too much, but I mean, just the way that they had the whole match set up, it wasn't like, you know, Benoit was being a Superman. It was just, well, he was, but you know, Angle screwed up, Regal screwed up. He took advantage of it and made a good match out of it, but he lost in the end.
Okay, and I guess a history question. Back when, way back when I guess Kerry Von Erich, when he lost his the lower part of his leg, I actually had a tape, and you know they had it was kind of sad to see the hospital interview where he has to say, oh, okay, the doctors managed to get save the leg and everything, and he continues wrestling. How common was the knowledge that he actually lost a leg in Texas and I guess among the
wrestlers. It wasn't his leg. He lost part of his foot. As far as there were rumors among a few people that lived in Texas. But like literally like maybe a dozen people knew. They thought nobody knew, but I just remember like Matt Bourne or somebody saw, like Carrie a swimming pool and he jumped in. He wouldn't take his shoes off, which they thought was really weird. And when they came out, there was.
Wow.
Yeah, he went in with a boot, and there was so much water coming out of the boot, they thought that was really strange. So that sort of got some rumors started. What really got it was there was a match in Las Vegas, and he was wrestling Colonel De Beers, and accidentally Colonel De Beers took his boot off, and people actually saw that he didn't have a foot. And it was so funny afterwards, because after that happened, people didn't. It's like it happened in Vegas in front of, a couple hundred people. And afterwards, everyone involved denied that it actually had happened. It's like, no, that never happened. And like I talked to people who were like in the front row, and like everyone's going like, it never happened, the boot never came off. They were like in such denial. So from that point, I think, I wrote about it in The Observer after that. So if you read The Observer, you would know about it. But, it was never acknowledged on TV, and it became an issue at the, what was that pay-per-view they did with the three groups to the pay-per-view in Chicago when, WWF actually went to the commission and tried to get the match, stopped because, it was like a handicapped guy and it was against commission regulations. So, but, it ended up like, I don't know why the commission didn't stop it, but they had a match, and it actually was a pretty decent match, too, with Lawler and Carey.
You talked about Marufuji earlier and how good he is. And I agree, but why is he seems to have to job in every match. I understand he's a newer guy, and I guess they're trying to, groom him, but do you think
and he's smaller, and he's working with bigger guys, and that's how they do it in Japan. He'll get his time. He'll be a junior heavyweight superstar someday.
Do you think he's as good as Shima or Magnum Tokyo right now? Or?
I think he's better than Magnum Tokyo. I don't think he's as good as Shima.
And actually, I've only seen one Toryumon tape. It was like a best of 4-hour thingy, and it was pretty much, I guess, the same 6 people in the matches. I guess they're, 6 top stars, Magnum, Suwa, Shima, etc., Dragon Kid, who was awesome, my God. But, the thing about Shima, I know you compared him to Eddie Guerrero at one point, and the high spots were awesome, but do you think he's as good as Eddie on the ground, like his mat wrestling? I don't see
At the same stage of his career, he's better than Eddie. He's not as good as Eddie was on Eddie's best day as far as the ground wrestling, but he's pretty awesome.
Okay, and last question, I guess. I think you had once compared, what's his name? Nakanishi, Mana. There you go.
Lex Luger.
Thank you.
Now, that's because they do the same. They both do the torture rack, and they're both not very good. Although Nakanishi has
a lot better now, but there was a time when
he was horrible for a long time.
Yeah,
dance.
But I think he has more than the 3 moves with the 3 clotheslines, and then the torture rack.
No, it's spear and torture rack.
Right. Oh, okay. and actually, one more question. Yuji Nagata's brother, I guess, New Japan, is that official that New Japan signed him on?
I don't know if it's official. I heard it last night. It was in the Tokyo Sports, which sometimes is accurate and sometimes isn't. Uh-huh. So, I know he left his job at the police force, and the assumption was he was going to sign with New Japan. I haven't heard 100% that he signed the contract yet. But
and is that bad news? Is that bad news for Nagata, or Yuji Nagata?
I don't think it's good news or bad news. I think, I don't think it's going to affect him one way or the other.
Okay.
Maybe they'll form a tag team. It would make sense.
Okay. Well, that's it. Thanks.
Okay.
Probably be like if Eric Angle came in. Wouldn't necessarily be a good thing or a bad thing.
Yeah. Hopefully Yuji Nagata's brother will do better than Eric Angle, just because, as an Olympic silver medalist, you're almost
expected, yeah.
Well, in Japan, you almost have to be pushed because you're real. Mm-hmm. And then if you're pushed too much, I hope he's good because it'll be real noticeable if he's not. Let's go to Heath in St. Louis.
Hey guys, I have a couple of things I just wanted to ask real quick, and actually just a comment or two. When you guys were talking about SmackDown earlier, and actually within the week earlier, I thought it was not a very good show overall with wrestling action and whatnot, but one of the big things that I came to a conclusion of, and after reading the Big Show interview, I think somewhere in it was talked about how Big Show talks about, he doesn't really have like a gimmick or whatnot. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, are they not basically saying his gimmick is that he's fat and everybody doesn't want to team with him and he's a joke? Mainly like, everybody else does.
That is this week.
And the one thing that came off, what I got the most out of was where they did that little clip with Brian Christopher and Blackman. And he comes in there and talks, and he acts like he's getting ready to fight Christopher. When Blackman walks in, he says, "Oh, hey," he plays it really well, just being a big dumb animal, which I think that's really what he is.
Yeah, I think his acting isn't too bad, and he's kind of funny. I just don't necessarily want to see him do much in the ring.
And that's probably where he's that's most profitable he can be, is just little things like that. I mean, that's what I draw from it. I mean, I think that's probably the only route that they can take with it. And then just two other little things, like with Austin being a heel, like you said with his interview, he comes off, he's trying to, get the crowd to hate him. He's a good heel overall because that's what he was the majority of his career. But how I'm noticing it now is like when he's in the ring, like on Raw especially, like after the Hardy, or SmackDown or whatnot, when Jeff Hardy came down to him with the chairs and whatnot, he just reminded me a lot of Pillman of old, like the loose cannon. You know how he climbs into the ropes and dangles on the ropes and he jumps up and down, still, screams and whatnot. Basically comes off that whole, loose cannon again. And it reminds me a lot of Brian Pillman. I don't know if there's anything to that, of course, but, it's just something,
I mean, maybe subconsciously. Because, they were together a lot and they were really good friends, so they're, right there.
And then finally, with Michaels, I mean, we talked about with his attitude and whatnot, but I don't know if you've watched the shoot interview with Shawn Michaels. And I haven't had the chance to watch Bret Hart's. And the big fight of '97, when Shawn, just quit. Was it basically, I heard Shawn's, reasoning behind it, basically how he said, Bret, boink Sonny or whatnot, and it just went from there. And is that really the truth to that, or,
I don't know.
You don't know?
I wasn't there. No one called me up and, had the phone running when it was going on, which has happened in the past.
Well, what's your take on that?
What? I don't know because it's like I said, I don't care. I mean, honestly,
Bret and Sonny were good friends, and Shawn had a big mouth, and that's how things started. I mean, it may have been the case, it may not have been the case, but
it may also not be true. It may also not be true.
Yeah. I'm sure that's what led to the fight.
Oh, it is what led to the fight. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, thanks a lot, Dave.
Okay, let's go to Dan in Chicago. Dan, what's up?
Hi. How you guys doing?
Doing really good.
Dan.
Good. Hey, listen, I just wanted to let you guys know that, this weekend I was heavily into the whole Bret Hart, Vince McMahon deal, with the documentary, and then I went ahead and listened to your show from last year, and as I was listening to it, I guess you guys said that Bret Hart had a meeting with Vince McMahon. When was that? Was that after Owen died?
Which one?
Oh, the one that was not on the bridge?
The one on the bridge?
No, the one that he said that he was afraid that Bret Hart was going to kill him.
Yeah, that was on the bridge in Calgary. Would have been.
Or it was in the park.
It's on the bridge at the park the day before. It was in the park that Bret Hart would ride his bicycle at. It was. I think it was the day before the day of Owen's funeral.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How did that
Vince
come about?
didn't want to go to the bridge, so.
Who approached who?
What?
Who approached who?
I think it was mutual.
Okay, my belief is that Carl DeMarco tried to work as a peacemaker, and he told Vince that Bret wanted it, and he told Bret that Vince wanted it, and and when they both got there, it didn't, they didn't make peace when all was said and done. That's my feeling, because I know that both Bret and Vince both claimed the other one wanted it, and it could have been that Vince wanted it, because I'm sure Bret wasn't lying in that situation, so that's, but I got this feeling that it was Carl DeMarco who told both of them the other one wanted it, trying to because Carl DeMarco forever is trying to get Bret Hart into the WWF because he thinks, it's good for Canadian business, and that there's so much money in Bret Hart. I mean, he's still trying to this day, he still wants Bret Hart in there to do the Bret Hart-Vince McMahon feud.
Yeah, now, my question is, what's Bret Hart's contract is involving WCW? Is he still under contract?
He was fired.
No, he was fired some time back.
Oh, he was, because of his injury, right?
Because of his injury, right.
Why did they, because it was so long for him to come back that he didn't know when he was going to come back.
And then he retired a couple of days later.
Okay, now I emailed you, I don't know, the other day, because he had said that he wanted to come on your show and say it. He never did. So what's up with that?
Bret came on the show right after that. He did his retirement thing. Okay, I think he actually went on the law on a Sunday and then retired here on a Monday, if I recall. But I mean, he retired. He sent out a thing on his website probably on that Friday of that week.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah, he was on the show just a couple days later.
Was it archived? I don't see it archived. I just saw that. I just heard that one with the Vince McMahon stuff. I didn't hear anything.
Okay. I don't know if that one is, but I mean, yeah, he was on.
Can you get him again on the show, maybe?
I would like to get him again. I don't know if he wants to do it again. I mean, I actually sent the word a couple of weeks ago, and I haven't heard him wanting to do it. So,
I'm sure when his book comes out, he'll probably want to come on.
When he will come on the show when his book comes out. Right now, he's trying to actually not do things like this.
Okay.
If you notice, there are not a lot of Bret Hart radio interviews out there.
Yeah.
And he's trying to concentrate on his book right now.
He's one of my favorite wrestlers, and I really admire him and his family and what they've been through. And I don't know. I was just into that this weekend, and I don't know. I think it'd be good to have him on the show again. I'd
love to have him on. He's welcome to come on anytime. We are totally out of time.
Bye-bye.
Okay, tomorrow on this show we are scheduled to have Ken Shamrock, and I say scheduled. Wednesday we're supposed to. I'm sure we'll have Bruno Sammartino. What Al?
We will have Bruno. That's confirmed. I spoke to him earlier today.
Okay, good. So that's really good. So Wednesday will be really tomorrow. We'll be able to talk also about Raw tonight and more stuff about what's been going on in wrestling. So anyway, we'll see everybody tomorrow at 5.